So I believe we can start. We are already quite a few people. So thank you everyone for joining today, and welcome to our usual weekly Falco Community call. As a reminder to everyone, this call is being recorded. So of course, if you do not wish to show your face, please turn your webcam off. And also, Falco is a CNCF project, and the CNCF code of conduct applies to this community call as well. So, of course, this boils down to being nice and excellent to everyone, as we always are. I don't see any reason why any of you should not be great to each other as usual. So, I believe we can start for today. So. Of course, if you didn't put your name yet into the HackMD, please do. I will be sharing the link again. And let's see if there's any item in the agenda. So I don't see any week highlights, although honestly, sometimes week highlights are in the agenda, so it's okay, I guess. And I believe we can go right to the first interesting point in the agenda, which is a great discussion, I believe. And Jason is going to tell us things about a possible attempt to get Falco to graduate as a CNCF graduated project and the work that the community is doing on that part. Please.
Yeah, it was just a quick update, actually. As many of you know, Falco is an incubating level project in the scope of CNCF. And last year, about this time, the community tried to ask for graduation of the project. And after a discussion with the TOC, the common agreement was to not proceed and reattempt in the future. So after KubeCon Europe, after discussion with some of the maintainers, we are starting thinking that this might be the right time to reattempt the graduation and start working towards it. As part of the first steps, we are going to review, in the terms of our governance, the full maintainer list that we have across different repos, trying to see which maintainers are being inactive for a long time and getting in touch basically with all of them, asking what their intentions are, and eventually if someone steps down, like it happened for example with Kaisi over the past few weeks, we're probably going to move them to an emeritus status so that they can just become maintainers back again when they have time to commit to the project. The goal of this is to make the governance and the leadership of each project as much transparent as possible, for benefit of the whole community. Second step that we see in the foreseeable future is getting in touch with the tag security, the TAG security, asking them about advice if we require or not, for example, a security audit, something like that. So starting tomorrow, we will probably start writing an email to them, to the tag security. And eventually, I think Leo was intention, which is not here today, to open a tracking issue, maybe in the Falco repository or in the dog GitHub one, I'm not sure yet, to track all the steps and all the actions taken for the graduation attempt. And that's all from my side.
Thanks a lot, Jason. So it's great to see Falco going on as a project and creating a community and doing everything that's needed to, let's say, get to this very important step. Of course, there are requirements, there are security requirements, community requirements, and everything. And so I hope to see soon Falco actually getting to all of these requirements and getting submitted for graduation and with a better shape.
I think there will be definitely plenty of work to do, especially, for maybe a documentation part. But I think, honestly, this is sort of a good time to say that the project reached a pretty good level of maturity, and the community around it has grown pretty big over the past at least year in which I joined the community. So I just want to see this happen. So we'll give you probably update, either me or any other maintainer, over the next few weeks once we proceed with all the points described before.
Cool. Does anyone have questions or comments for Jason, or I think he's the only maintainer of Fede, who's also a maintainer on this topic? Take it as a no, so I'll go on and tell you my thoughts about 0.31.1. As you know, we will be soon releasing a new version of Falco that has complete support that started in 0.32.0 started support for two things that are gvisor and ARM, and in 0.32.1 we want to complete that support and get the first version of that support out. We are working pretty much a lot of people in the community are working on this, including of course myself, who is trying to both drive the release and get everything that's necessary for gvisor support in. And we got a lot of help from maintainers that we and with this feature I work with Lorenzo. We got a lot of maintainer help from maintainers like Fede, Andrea, and Jason. We've got a lot of help for the driver kit part as well from David and Fede, and we've got some excellent help from Mauro with bug fixing, which is, as long as Mauro is there to fix my bugs, I will feel happy. So I would like to share again. I think I've got the link over here that I can copy back to the new part. So here there's the PRs that we have outstanding. Actually, there's a couple more issues that came up. In terms of gvisor support, for example, the gvisor project added support for security audit to more system calls late last week. So on Monday, we noticed that there was more support. So Lorenzo and I have been working to add those. Lorenzo added a PR that was already merged, and I'll be adding one today. And we want to, of course, get to parity with them. So I will add a new point here. There is a big one on ARM that's being evaluated by everyone, and especially if we got ARM experts here, please take a look here and tell us what you think, because there's a pretty tricky behavior difference between x86 and ARM. That very simple syscall execv that nobody ever uses apparently in ARM. It doesn't really work in the same way as x86, so Falco needs to account for this difference. And that would be it pretty much. So at that point, I would like to just as a this information can be useful for everyone, both interested in release and as users of libs. Now we've got tagging on libs, which I know it sounds like rocket science, but there are version numbers in libs. This is something that a library does need version numbers, and we now have those. So we've got, so thanks to Leonardo, we have an option to tag those libraries. And for this release, we wanted to test drive this new, let's say, feature of our repos. So we wanted to actually do things properly in terms of tagging. As you can see here, Leonardo has already tagged 070 alpha 2, but what we are going to do is starting when everything is falling into place, like the PRs that you saw in the Falco issue actually got in, we're going to add the 070 RC1 to get an RC out and keep tagging things in this way, so that while we do our release, we can track our progress, we can make the community aware of which tags might be considered for release, and someone that is, especially someone that is using libs downstream, might catch issues while this is ongoing. And of course, along with them, dev releases of Falco will also have a specific tagged version, so it's easier to find out which versions are there. Once those PRs are complete, I'm going to add, I mentioned this last week, but I'm going to add the latest Falco version for testing to everyone that is interested in doing some pre-release testing. And our target for these would be next week. We'll see, of course, how many problems pop up when we start this tagging and releasing and ARM adding process, and keep you updated, of course. And that would be from my side. I think that pretty much sums it up. Anyone has any questions?
Yeah. Will the Libsyn driver follow the Falco schedule for releases, or will it be independent?
That is an excellent question.
They are independent.
All right.
So we have no schedule right now. Basically, when we feel that it's the right moment, the community feels that the right moment to tag a new library or better version, we will tag and go with that. So basically, for the driver at least, we have there are some version, so you will be able to use, for example, 1.0.2 on Falco that was built with 1.0.0, so there is no problem. So this allows us to, bug fix much more quicker issues on the driver side, and you just can backport it on your Falco. No issues.
If I may add something, there was a pretty valuable contribution from Leonardo in Falco. Currently, when you use Falco -- version, you only see the commit hash of libs. That has been changed, printing basically the version of everything that Falco gets bundled with. So the default driver version, the compatible schema and API version of the drivers, the plugin API version as well. So it will be much more predictable and understandable which version of Falco is compatible with what, basically. So that's a pretty big step forward, I think. And also being able to build the drivers differently than the Falco schedule, release schedule, is a pretty big thing to me. So pretty excited to see this change happen.
Also, if you're interested, there were proposals about this, and a lot has been written on this. But even for the drivers, you can find the readmes for the versions. So when these versions get incremented on the drivers, on the libs themselves, because as you know, the driver has API, the drivers has a schema, and because pretty much APIs are how you connect to the driver, and the schema is what kinds of events the driver is able to output, and those both have versions. This is on top on libs version. So I can't say that everything is perfect and works perfectly yet, because I'd be lying, because this is as I was saying, the first release where we're actually going to do that and tag that and implement. So I hope everything goes smoothly, but if you catch any issues, of course, that would be much appreciated, or if you have comments or anything else. But there is descriptions for each and every one of those versions. There's both in the main README, the driver README, and that would be it. So hope that we don't mess it up, but you can find all this information in the READMEs directly in the report. Also in the proposal that was added, I think, a long time ago, but I think the most up-to-date information are directly in the READMEs of the reports.
I just wanted to add that this also means that multiple files can have the same driver version. I think that was not possible right now, because every time we bump it, just the user space part of libs, we would have to rebuild basically all the drivers.
And rebuilding drivers is the most fun thing ever, and we all know it's a favorite pastime of each and every one of us.
A good point to add is that effectively a given version of Falco will be compatible with many driver versions, as Federico said. And a discussion we had yesterday, actually, me and him, was that the driver loader that will ship with Falco 032.1 will only pick one driver version. But maybe in the future, we will probably be trying to build some sort of discovery service in which maybe an older version of Falco will still be able to grab and download a newer compatible version when it's out. So still not a thing, but it's a pretty big door opener for features like that.
Yeah, or vice versa. And the new driver is available and you pick the other one.
Yes, now I wouldn't like I really love that. I mean, I like the fact that we can actually version things. We don't need to rebuild the driver continuously. We can have multiple Falco versions using the same driver, which happens quite frequently, especially with patch releases, or that also would make releasing a new Falco version much easier. Think if a new CVE gets discovered, a new vulnerability is discovered in some component that we use, and it's critical. So we need to get something out. We don't need to rebuild the driver for that. We just need to get out the patch release that can happen very quickly instead of having a long process. But I wouldn't think from now that every possible combination will work super smoothly, but we can go towards that, especially when we have multiple consumers and people that rely on the driver. So I absolutely agree on that. Any other questions on this part? So I think we can proceed with Mauro telling us more about some work that he's doing on testing, which is another great subject when we think Falco libraries, because I think I agree with him, need more tests. Mauro, please.
Yeah, thank you. Some of you may remember I've already showed this repo like 2 or 3 months ago. When I first showed it, it was pretty barren. It would only run a single test on SINSP example using just the kernel module. Since then, I've added 2 more tests, which is not that much, but if you go with relative terms, it's like 200% extra tests. So that's something. I've also made it so the same tests are run both with the kernel module and the eBPF Pro. And I've also made it so GitHub Actions actually run the tests for me. So I have that automated. And the last thing I did was create another GitHub action to have the libs repo pulled to the latest commit of master every week. So that should let me catch a few more bugs, and I'll be creating a few more PRs. Hopefully not, but maybe. And I'm also today started looking into using the event generator for just creating events and testing that those are caught. And thank you to Federico and Andrea, because I needed to create a small change in the example for the inspector library, because it by default only shows information on main threads, but the generator event actually uses threads for generating events. So I had no way of actually catching things. So now with that, I should be able to create new tests for most of the syscalls, or at least I'll try. Yeah, that's it.
Super nice. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Mauro, for that. I would only add just as a refresher for people that maybe didn't follow when you opened this repo the first time. First of all, this is very valuable. I love it. These are end-to-end tests, right? So, what kind of tests are currently supported, and basically, in case someone, for example, wants to add something new, because I would expect I might have ideas, or people in the community might have ideas. How would you go and do that? So what's for someone that maybe wants to contribute, or if you don't feel like it's ready for contributions yet, please state, or in general, what should we expect? Or if I just want to use it, maybe I just made a change and I want to try it out.
So we have instructions on the README that should be, as for running, should be pretty much like, everything is there. Because of how it works, you should only need to clone it and run make on the main directory, and it will create a few containers for Docker and run everything inside Docker. So you only really need a Docker daemon and GNU make, and everything should just work for you. And maybe your kernel headers, it does need to run in Linux, so keep that in mind. If you want to contribute to it, I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with PyTest, but basically under the tests directory, you'll find a bunch of test underscore whatever. And inside those, just Python scripts for testing stuff. They are pretty basic. The test right now is just a set of events in dictionaries, and basically the test just reads the logs from the SANSP example, and then tries to find the events that you tell them in them. And that's basically it. So if someone wants to add some tests for something that they want, they can just create a new file there, and it should be added automatically, because the script, well, not the script, the Docker file that builds the test actually grabs anything that's under this test underscore whatever / test underscore .py. So as long as you follow that naming scheme, it should just add your test to the runner, which is another Docker container, and just run it for you. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Mauro. And the driver version that this is going to run is compiled on the fly when I do make it. Does it compile a driver for my machine, or does it get it from pre-built, or how does that part work?
When you run make, it first creates one container that's called like a builder, which has everything that you need to build both the libraries as well as the drivers. It will build a driver for your Linux machine that you're running on. That's why you need the kernel headers to be there. And it will also create the SANSP example as a separate container, mount everything together. It ends up being basically two containers, one for the example and one for the test running. And that's basically it. The tests run by literally just running the runner container. And that actually needs to have access to the Docker socket, and it will spawn containers for you in order to run tests.
Excellent. And also, I was thinking maybe it would be fantastic to run this on different kernel versions. For example, maybe in the future you've got like a bunch of EC2 machines or something that you can spawn, and you just run the same tests on different kernel versions to make sure that things build and collect events in the same way in different versions. And this can, as you mentioned, also run with BPF. So that's another thing to test.
That's my hope. That's my hope. Basically, I run it on a Fedora 35 VM locally, and GitHub Actions uses Ubuntu, and I didn't need to change anything. I just created the action, went run make on this repo, and it just worked. So, you know, adding another virtual machine somewhere else would be just clone the repo on that virtual machine and just run make, and everything's okay. It should work. So
very, very cool.
Yeah,
thank you.
That's super cool. Thank you, Mauro.
Thank you, Mauro. Andrea is already ready to use that. So if nobody else has comments on this testing part, I think we can proceed to the last item of the agenda that we have right now. That's Jason. I know I already read some of these proposals here and design documents for this. He is undertaking the massive task that he introduced last week to try and get Falco to take multiple sources at a time, like Syscall plus plugins, which is not an easy task, and he wants to tell us a bit more about it.
Yeah, I introduced the topic last week, I think. I just want to give everyone a quick update. First, I wanted to say thank you to Fred to actually having reviewed the document and giving a comment about some concerns, but he left a few minutes ago. So, my thank will be, I say thank you anyways. So, I started opening a bunch of PRs in Falco many of you probably know this, those are totally out of the scope of this Falco release. This is basically all preliminary work to tackle many of the individual points that I tried to list on the tracking issue. So basically the work started. There will be plenty of reviewing and improvements to be done over the next few months, but I see this project being feasible, and just wanted to say that some progress is going. So if anyone has any questions, I'm here.
The first question is, I believe that's still the most up-to-date source of information where everyone can go and take a look at the small book you wrote and the fact that the comments and Fred's comment that you were mentioning. So I will add it to the agenda for everyone interested. Like we were discussing last week, there is a lot of super nice use cases for this kind of functionality. So I believe there's a lot of interest around this. Sure, so people need to take some time and read the proposal, which should take a bit of time, but I'm sure, like Fred, there's people interested in this.
Yeah, maybe it's worth mentioning, since there are many libs users here, that this doesn't touch libs at all, nor the Falco engine. This is just under user space Falco, basically. And there is multi-threading involved, and a big concern that one may raise is that libs and libsysp specifically, it's not thread safe. So there are a bunch of reasonings and guarantees that I had to research about to make it safe for this to work. And the model proposed should be safe in theory, and I also made a little experiment and it was working properly. But yeah, just wanted to say that this effort is not going to touch the libraries. So eventually, at least if it doesn't work, it will not break anything. So yeah, that was my thinking.
So instead of making the libraries thread safe, you'll just have mutexes associated with each inspector that you're gonna spawn?
The goal is to make this as much non-blocking as possible, because if we don't do this, let's say that you want to do parallelization at the inspector level, but you use a mutex. Plugins and syscalls and every active source might influence each other, and as we are, everyone knows that syscalls have a tremendous amount of events, and it will probably be not feasible to run all this all together. So the model here is that there is one Falco engine with all the loaded rule sets. There is one inspector for each thread, and there cannot be more than one source with the same name active at the same time. So syscalls, you only will have one inspector with syscalls. This is also part of the thread safety guarantees. And by splitting the whole Falco engine by event source, it is thread safe and weight free by design. So the only synchronization point will be the output system, which is when a rule matches an event, which is way lower in volume than the number of events. So, and that is thread safe as well by design, thanks to the work of Leonardo from last year. So we should be good to go, and this should be probably non-blocking right until the end when a rule matches an event, which is what we actually want, because this will not be deployable otherwise, I see, with syscall at least.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. This is really awesome work. Thanks a lot. I don't see any other item in the agenda, so if anyone else wants to add something or just thinking about something, please, floor is yours. I'll take it as a no for today. And at this point, I would like to ask if anyone wants to be the MC next week. As you can see, it's very fun. It's a great activity. No, really, if someone wants to be the MC, can say it now or use the Falco channel as usual. In the last 2 weeks, actually, it happened that we had the last minute person joining in. I don't mind. but really, if someone never did it and wants to do it, it's as you can see, it's easy. I can even do it. So it's very easy. Anyways, there's always the Falco channel, and I will not call out anyone, but all the people from the community that I've seen doing the MC did a fantastic job. So if you want to do it again, even please. Thanks a lot for joining today. It was a really great discussion. If you have any questions about the upcoming release and so forth, please post to the Falco channel. I know that, and if I don't read it for some reason, and you have questions for the stuff that I said, ping me with no, with no problems, and I will get to it. Or general questions, please do. I will try to update for release both on the issue and on the channel. And as always, have a great day or evening or whatever, however it is where you are. Thank you, everyone.